Welcome. It is 6 p.m. in the beautiful Township of Colerain on October 13th, 2020. We will begin the meeting of the Colerain Township Community Improvement Corporation. First, we will start with roll call.
Good evening, Mr. Wallert. Begin the roll call with Mr. McElravy.
Present.
Mr. Iona is excused. Mr. Mills is here. Mr. Unger?
Here.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Here.
And Mr. Wallert.
Here.
Good.
All right, moving on to item number 2, the approval of minutes. You've been provided in the meeting packet. The minutes from the last meeting, July 28th, 2020. Are there any motions at this time?
A motion that we would approve the minutes from July 28th, 2020.
Motion by Mr. Unger. Any seconds?
I second it.
Okay, any comments regarding the minutes or any questions or changes?
None.
None from me.
Seeing none, we'll go ahead and go to a voice vote. Or roll call vote, sorry.
Mr. McElravy?
Aye.
Mr. Mills votes aye. Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Wallert?
Aye. So that motion passes, as I'm quickly counting here, 5-0. Moving on to item number 3, new business. Mr. Mills, would you like to introduce the third quarter financial statements?
Sure. Actually, Mr. McElravy prepared these.
Okay, Mr. McElravy, sorry.
Good evening, Board. It was a relatively light month in terms of transactions for the C.I.C. There were only a handful related to our financial statements for the 2018-2019 audit, and then also a payment to the Ohio Secretary of State for our Statement of Continued Existence.
I would motion that we accept the 2020 third quarter financial statements.
Are there any seconds?
I second it.
Motion by Unger, seconded by Rajagopal. Are any comments regarding the third quarter financial statements?
None.
None.
All right, we'll go ahead and call for a roll call vote, please.
Mr. McElravy?
Aye.
Mr. Mills votes aye. Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Wallert?
Aye. Item B, I guess that goes to Mr. McElravy too. Discussion of 2018-2019 audit results.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Actually, I think Mr. Mills was going to speak on this item.
All right, I'll move for 2. I'm just going to say Jeff next time.
Yep, you'll get it right if you say Jeff. No, we've talked about this at our Board of Trustees meetings, but being that this is the first C.I.C. board meeting since we've received our audit results from 2018 and 2019, I think that it's appropriate to share them in this forum also. We received our audit report, and it is as clean as you can get. So there were no written findings, there were no verbal findings, there were no areas of improvement or nothing in a management letter. This is as clean as it gets. And on top of that, for the first time, Auditor Faber has instituted a transparency audit to run concurrently with the financial audit. And the Colerain Township C.I.C. earned the highest level of transparency in its audit. So it earned 4 of 4 stars. In order to earn 4 stars, you have to do 5 of the 7. You have to check 5 of the 7 best practices. And we checked all 7 best practices. So there is no way that we could have checked another box for the auditor in terms of transparency. And it was not because they weren't looking. They looked very hard and asked lots of questions. We had to provide lots of documents to them, but in the end, they saw fit to give us 4 out of 4 stars in their transparency audit. So that's something that I'm very proud of, the work that our staff does every day to make sure that we are running a very transparent and operationally efficient organization.
Any motions at this time?
I think it was just
Just a discussion, yeah. Any comments?
I really appreciate your hard work. Also Jeff's hard work. You guys did a great job. There has been some accusations before. It was not transparent and not doing properly, done right. But this proves, and you guys top of the on the matters, and everything is accurately recorded, and our auditor found out did a great job. I really appreciate that. Good work.
I'll just echo those comments. Thank you very much for the hard work on, I like getting all 4 stars, 7 to 7.
There's one, when Mr. Unger and Mr. Rajagopal were elected to the board, and since Mr. Wallert has joined the Board of Trustees, when those first 2 individuals joined the board, they said that their number 1 priority was transparency.
Correct.
Was to improve the transparency of our organization. And we immediately that year, in 2018, implemented a 6-point transparency program to improve the transparency of not just the CIC, but also the township in general. And I think it's the leadership and setting the agenda of saying this is a top priority for our township, and then it was up to us to execute on that, and we did. But ultimately, this was your leadership, and we appreciate it.
Good work.
And Jeff, I would just like to comment that a lot of the business that went on in 2018 and 2019 had to do with the Fireside Hotel or Motel and the construction and investment by Duke Energy. And over 18 and 19, we sat up here and took a lot of heat and had more resident questions than anything. And here at the end of the day, everything that went on was legit and reviewed by the state. So thank you for everyone who asked questions and made positive comments and negative ones, but here at the end of the day, everything turned out. And the Duke Energy Colerain Operations Center's down there running every day and providing services to the community that lights up our world and heats our homes and powers our businesses. And sometimes when you sit up here, you take a lot of heat for the things you do, and I certainly welcome the audit and welcome all the accusations and questions and everything else that came forward, but here we are, and everything worked out well. And of course, we're playing to a almost empty room here, but to those watching at home on television, everything you heard in the last 2 years, there's the end of the story. So
That's right, and that was a very complex real estate transaction, and yeah, it feels it's very validating to receive this audit.
And I have no other comments.
Any additional comments on the audit results? At this point, I'm going to make a motion to amend the agenda to add 3A, old business, to continue the discussion of where we left off last time with regard to composition of the CIC and kind of its charge going forward. Are there any seconds on that?
I will second your motion to amend the agenda to have an additional discussion.
All right, thank you. Any discussion about amending the agenda?
None.
Roll call.
Mr. McElravy?
Aye.
I vote aye. Mr. Unger?
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal?
Aye.
Mr. Wallert?
Aye. As you recall, we last left off, I'll give a little bit of context, and then this will be kind of, I guess, an open discussion. I don't think, Larry, we need to have a motion to have just an open discussion, right? Okay. One of the things that I thought was very important is to get more community involvement in the CIC, and like many things, you don't see everything from every point of view till people point it out. One of the things that I heard over and over again from some folks that were opposed to this idea is that the three of us, we get a vote, and you can vote us out if you don't like us. What is the utility of making somebody like a super citizen that can vote on a CIC board? So I don't know if a middling ground on this is to have like a community board that reports to the CIC, but I still am committed to the whole idea of bringing the people into this process of the CIC, although I do recognize some of the opposition with the functionality of having, maybe 3 trustees and 4 citizens and, 2 people from the administration, and ultimately there's a whole lot of non-elected people that I just mentioned in there. And I think that was the concern that I had from a lot of folks. So I'll just throw that out. That said, I don't know if this is, we have a model with Greater Northbrook, or I don't know if this is a way we can move to having kind of a community advisory that works with the CIC. But I think we're going to be seeing a lot of changes in the next 2 to 3 years in the township, and I think it's very important in along the Colerain corridor, and I think it's very important to have all the stakeholders at the table or at least represented at the table, especially with regard to the voters in all the neighborhoods. So I've created a problem. I don't have a solution for it. I'm thinking that the minds here could get together to figure that out. In the past, I've said let's expand the CIC for every neighborhood, but the point that people have made to me is well taken in that now it's become almost, I guess it would be transparent, but it would be what can a citizen do if they don't like those decisions at that point? What's the remedy for it? So I will throw that out as a.
Thank you, Matt. I think where we left off at was a discussion a few months ago, and I know this year was January, February, COVID, and now it's October. I think at that time, my recollection was I was in favor of just adding one to make it a tiebreaker, so there was 7 of us.
We did add one. Yeah, we voted on the one, so yeah.
Okay, but and then the reason Mr. Iona is not here tonight is because he's on leave, so normally we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus the 1.
Yeah.
And I think as far as setting up other committees, I think we're still in current litigation over another committee that was set up at one time, and until we get a little bit more direction on that, I think I would hesitate to add any other committees until that first issue is resolved, but I was fine with adding one.
I followed through this Matt's idea, which is makes logically sounds good. What I was thinking about that, we definitely we have some very highly intelligent community people in our township. They are like some of them retired executives. Let's use their talents. Let's use their talents, and especially CIC is more like we are going in the direction of economic development, and CIC plays very integral part to develop this and build a stronger economy in our township. If I understand correctly, what we'll do, we'll add this, like Dane said, which is also makes sense. Once we clear the way from the court about where the advisory committee, how should be appointed, how should be, voice their opinion to the trustees, and we can add them to CIC. We pick some very prominent people we're willing to serve, but at the end, I would like to have 3 trustees have the voting on the final decisions. And I like both guys' idea, what they threw out, and I think you want to talk about this later on in the trustees meeting, how your strategic planning or economic development, we're heading forward. I think we're going the right direction, real direction. I strongly believe Colerain Township is going to see very good economic growth. Too bad we went through this COVID-19. It kind of put us on a different path, but I strongly believe we're going to move forward and use that CIC very strong. How it's a backbone to that goals we're going to set up, and that's a good idea that Matt brought it up. Get some talented people, the community involved in this, but end of the day, the voting is based on 3 trustees. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, and that's a discussion I've had with some of the folks that were opposed to this idea. They wanted to limit the voting to just us 3. Now, from a functional point of view, anything the CIC decides that would involve any expenditure of money would be voted on us 3 anyway. So, right, that would be.
So I hear a couple different things going on. So one is the concept of having 7 board members, and they're all voting board members. And then the other is the concept of having 3 board members, and they're voting members, and then basically a staff. And that's, either one of those is possible. But if you have 7 voting members, the CIC money can be voted on by the board.
Okay.
Right? And so it would be all of the board members would be able to vote. And if you have 4 non-trustees, then the 4 non-trustees could theoretically vote against the 3 trustees.
Okay.
That's a theoretical possibility.
Okay. And as far as the litigation with this, and I don't know, we could be in this for a while, right? I mean,
Yes.
yeah, that's my concern, is waiting for this to, is it your advice that we steer clear of this kind of thing till we're out of it, or is there a way we can avoid some of the pitfalls, move forward on this, and kind of silo this in a separate area from the litigation we're currently in?
Well, are you suggesting that you want to have a committee to advise the CIC? Is
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
I think if you do that, the way to avoid litigation is that you announce the meetings, you have minutes of the meetings, and you treat them as if they're public meetings of the committee.
Okay.
I mean, that's what the issue is.
right.
And the difference between that and the boards that were created in litigation, the boards that were created, like the Land Use Advisory Board, was set up to advise a staff person, to have conversations with a staff person, because one of the directives from the board was go out and engage the community more. And so we went out and engaged the community at a staff level, and then got sued for it. So if you wanted to stand up like a public body that's called the C.I.C. Advisory Committee, and that was a public body that you established, and we noticed it and had meetings out here, and that was the point, was to have, meetings directing another public board, that's a possibility. I would say that economic development deals are difficult, right? They're difficult to achieve given the bureaucracy that exists in government. And my personal opinion is adding additional layers of bureaucracy makes it more difficult, not easier. And so if your goal is to make development easier, at the end of the day, it's you guys. And so I would steer towards less bureaucracy and not more.
I get that point. I guess my other point of it is, Raj talked about having, the best and the brightest, but, I'm just talking about kind of a representative swath of the township. Sometimes I think we get kind of maybe in our own vision what we think people want, and you go out and ask people, the moms and the dads and the people that are going to work every day. They're like, no, I don't want that. And I think I think more feedback from the people, from the citizens are kind of needed. But I get your point in that the more layers we add, the more complicated it gets. And I guess that's why I kind of suggested is maybe some type of happy medium being some type of advisory. And I get the past, the history with this. I'm giving you the same charge that you got 2 years ago that ended us up in court. Right. I'm saying I want more feedback from the different stakeholders. I still think that that's probably something that a lot of people want. I get the reticence to try it, but I wonder if that would be something that would work on a CIC. And I think that Raj's point is absolutely 1,000% point on about how this can be kind of an additional arm with what we're trying to do next year through the strategic plan and stuff that you'll be addressing at the trustee meeting. So this started in one place and it's kind of gone in another place, but I don't know that that's necessarily bad. But I think that the fundamental thing that I still want to stress is that I want to hear from the community, and I want to hear from all communities on this in some way.
Matt, when I last year we had, and I couldn't tell you how many times we did it, but it seemed like if anybody was at the CIC meeting and wanted to speak, we amended the agenda and took public comment. If we made that a permanent part of the agenda for public comment, I mean, we could, and any interested citizen that wanted to come in and say something, we'd certainly accommodate them just like we do at the trustee meetings. So maybe adding that to the agenda would be a good, do that for the next meeting and see how that works and see if some of these folks show up. And I'm certainly receptive to anybody's comments. So that'd be my idea, is that way we could avoid setting up another level of bureaucracy, and we could avoid the so-called packing the court or packing the CIC, and at the same time we would still take public comments. So maybe we add that to the agenda, just an idea.
Dan, I can see that. I also see that Jeff Mills' thoughts of how establishing bureaucracy. I won't call this as a bureaucracy. I would call it is more like the real participation of the people input, okay? They're not bureaucracy. What I'm saying is, what we're going to do, like Matt's idea reflecting, is right now we got 7 members, right? At present?
We have authorization for 7, but there's only 6 that have
7
been
members.
appointed.
Only we got 3 members, the Board of Trustees, 3 people, okay? Board of Trustees can be outweighed with the voting of 4 other members, okay?
Not the way it's set up right now.
Yeah. Well, the additional guys are non-voting people, right? That's what it's supposed to be?
Everybody on the board votes.
Everybody-
7, yeah. My argument is that trustee can be outvoted.
Yes.
Because they're minority in this board, okay? I think that's not we should be. We are elected by the people to run the government, to oversee the government, to oversee the budget, each part of that branch. Okay, that's our duty. That's what we are elected for. But we still maintain that trustees maintain the authority. I won't say authority, the overseeing the board. But I can see this, to what you vision, our vision to move forward the economic, this type of people, we saw, I've been in this meeting almost 3 years, sitting there. We don't see any people coming, outside the people coming to the meeting, give the ideas, everything. We publish in that circle, we publish in the township meeting. We see the people coming to the meeting. When the people come, we got same people, I'm not complaining about that, they are right to come, but we have some people who really want to get involved, they abstained. And this type of environment, what Matt and me are mentioning, give you the opportunity, they separately meet, come up with the ideas. And I don't see any people coming to the meeting in my 3 years who would really want to involve. That's my take. This gives an opportunity, they can gather up. They can not necessarily meet here, they can meet in some coffee place, brainstorming. They can meet here
Yeah,
if
and
they
see,
want to.
that's part of the problem is that if you stand up an advisory committee, those people are going to have to sign up for the slings and arrows that come with serving on a public body, and
Okay.
and that's hard, and that's why that's a deterrent for a lot of folks is they don't want to come get yelled at, and they don't want to be a part of the vitriol that we see here very often. That's why the public, I don't know. Anyway, but I think that your idea about having a 3-member board makes a lot of sense because frankly, like, I don't want to be in a position where I have to vote against my bosses. You know what I mean? I mean, to be very frank with you, I want to be in a position where I'm the staff person that executes the vision of the board to do economic development. And so the current setup is a 7-member board where we all vote. I could totally see a 3-member board and then staff. And then you have an executive director that's not a voting member, an executive director, a treasurer, and a secretary that are staff to the 3-member C.I.C. board.
Yeah, and legally, I think you could do the 3 trustees and then 2 people from the public that are not appointees if you wanted to. I mean, 2/5 of the board has to be either trustees or appointees. And so that's easily, but if you wanted to have the 3 of you be able to outvote the rest of the board, then you could just have the 3 of you as trustees and then 2 people from the public at large that are members of the board who could give their input, but they would not be able to outvote you if you were all united, at least.
See, I would welcome that if the 4 other members of the board that are not trustees felt so strong about an issue that they wanted to outvote the 3 trustees. I would welcome that because I'd be up for that challenge and I'd want to, argue my point and win you over. But if you feel that strongly about something, then where do you have an avenue to get to us when you don't have a vote? This is just the C.I.C. It's kind of a project-oriented group like the Duke Operations Center that I mentioned earlier. It's not dealing with all the other things that are on tonight's regular meeting agenda. So I at this point in the discussion, I'm still in favor of the way it's set up, adding the seventh member, so we had a tiebreaker. And if some other group, much like our fire chief and police chief have coffee with the chiefs, if Jeff wanted to host some citizens in completely unrelated to our operation and get some ideas from them, I think you probably take enough phone calls from people that have ideas to begin with, don't you?
Or you, or me, or Raj, for that matter.
I mean, I've always made myself very accessible to anybody that's ever, called in with an idea, and in the interest of keeping the CIC for what it is designed for, is to take on projects like the Duke Operations Center, and not have it. I mean, if somebody's got some economic development ideas, please contact any one of us. It doesn't matter. We're all oriented towards it. You can achieve great things when nobody cares who gets the credit. I think that's where everybody in this room is at, and we'll take any help or advice we can get. But I'm still, I enjoy the discussion, but I'm in favor of a 7-member board dedicated to getting little project things done. If it turns out that it's just 3 votes based on what Matt and Raj might decide at the end of the discussion, I'm fine with that too, but I enjoy having 4 votes against me. If the administration feels that strongly, and of course we can always override them and throw them off the committee, but at the same time, I think that's fine. I want to be opposed. I want to hear opposing ideas in a challenging format.
So if I respond, I guess I look at it in a different way. I don't look at the CIC as an end of itself. I look at it as a vehicle and a process for more. So putting on my political science hat here, back in the late 40s, early 50s, the United States figured, you know what, we can't have Europe going to war all the time. Let's find something that France and Germany have in common. Let's link them, and they cooperate over this one issue, and that cooperation expands. Through the literature, that's called functionalism. So we had the birth of the European Coal and Steel Company, because the area that France and Germany always fought over, where the Alsace-Lorraine area, is where the coal could be found. That became today's European Union, which obviously it probably hit its apex in like 02, 03 with the monetary union. It's kind of gone, it's not as organized now, but that idea of functionalism, if we get more people in the room, more people working together, we see this with the trash, how this has taken off with, I mean, we got people spending their whole weekend picking up trash. I mean, there are people that want to have skin in the game. And I guess I see this as another vehicle to have them be part of this and push this forward, because this is a big wagon to push uphill. If we really want to remake things, this room isn't going to do it. It's the people outside the room that are going to see it. And I guess I want to assure that. I mean, the ideas and the kind of the vision might be ours, but the sweat equity we need from the 50,000 plus people that want to be involved with it. And I guess that's my idea, that's my whole emphasis about the CIC. And you've heard me talk a lot about people putting in sweat equity, and a lot about rebranding Colerain. And I think part of rebranding Colerain is rebranding government and rebranding CIC, so that we are different, and that, government always gets accused of being slow and lumbering, kind of like me playing football, but we need quick, like Mr. Unger there. And
Well, I would say
Dan was a quick football player.
My first practice, after the first set of sprints, they decided I would be a tackle.
But so I guess that's my undergirding philosophy on it.
keep in mind that that the purpose of the CIC is to execute the economic development vision of the 3 trustees, right? And so if the more folks that are involved in that decision-making process, the more folks that you have to convince that it's a good idea, right? So I think that if you want a nimble organization that can execute on your vision, I think that a smaller, pivot, an organization that can pivot and be lean and quick, smaller is better. If you want a deliberative organization that can mull over the pluses and minuses of a proposed development, and that's what the direction you want to go, then open it up. And so I think that's really the decision that's in front of the board.
Jeff, I see your point. Actually, I was in Chamber of Commerce meeting, some get-together things about a few weeks ago. Mr. Unger was there too. What the people, they say, I see a lot of young talent, young people there. They were striving to get involved in the township. These are young guys, and they are very educated, and the professionals, what I meant to say, young professionals, they are thriving to get in how I can help the township. There's a lot of people there. I see that when I meet some retired executives, corporate executives, they all think, how can we execute? We have the talent in our township. How you can utilize these talents? Young people, older people, retired people, females, executives. So many people there. You know, what I see, this is honest to God what I'm telling you now. 3 years I'm serving, 3 years, kind of saturated. The ideas, I know we're moving forward. We're moving forward, a lot of economic growth, we got a great leadership team we have. But there's not much of the participation of the talents we have in the outside, in our township. So when he moving forward in 2021 with all the strategic planning, it'd be fantastic get these people involved. Let them be part of it. 3 years I'm sitting in almost 3 years in the meeting. I don't see any difference. The people come to the meeting. And I don't know how the people, through you, that address you, gives ideas. I don't see any ideas. People. Because we talk about the transparency, we talk about the vision, we talk about the goals, we talk about overall the strategic plan, strategic things, programs we're going to create. And we'll try something different. We need change. We need change. The change will take place if we try something different. Let's try it. If it may work, it may not work. If it works, that'll be good for our township. If it doesn't work, we'll move forward to different thing. So the change is necessary. I feel in 3 years working as a trustee, time for change.
Mr. Chair? Yes. So if this body is interested in having an outlet for more community-driven input, it seems to me that a model that we could adopt that has been used elsewhere is for the creation of a community development corporation. This would be a group that would share their thoughts about strategy, to your point, that would share thoughts about practices that are used in other townships, other cities, strategies that have worked that we might be able to bring here, and really help to inform the thinking of the C.I.C. It seems to me that it's critically important that the C.I.C. remain as nimble as it can be, and that it is able to make good decisions thoughtfully, but quickly if need be. It's just the nature of the work that we're tasked with. So I think there may be a happy medium somewhere in there. So I think if we want to try to balance those two competing priorities, I'd suggest that we pursue that model.
So can you give me, off the top of your head or maybe later via email, a couple of examples? It doesn't even really need to be Ohio if it's something outside Ohio, of a CDC, CIC interaction and what that looks like. And I'll go dig it out and see and kind of look at, look at that interaction. Because I think what you're saying, if I'm not, tell me if I'm putting words in your mouth, but you're saying, look, the CIC needs to stay the same, but this input from outside, from the community and other stakeholders could be in the form of the CDC, and the CIC implements the economic plan of the CDC.
I don't think that's exactly how it goes, though.
Okay.
Because the CIC is the agent of the township for economic development.
Right.
So the CIC is tasked with carrying out, generally speaking, what the Board of Trustees of the township want to do by virtue of economic development. I think what Jeff is saying, that if there's a CDC, that would probably give advice to the Board of
The Board of
Trustees.
Trustees, okay.
Rather than the CIC.
Yeah, and it's all, I mean, the CIC is an arm of the trustees, right? It's just,
Right.
it's a vehicle for achieving your economic development vision. You want 100 new jobs? Well, we've got this vehicle to buy and sell land. It's called the CIC. The transaction needs to happen, and those transactions, time kills deals. And so a CDC is an organization that is empowered to do many things that even the CIC cannot. And so a CDC could not only buy and sell land, they can enter into contracts, they can, you see CDCs all across the city of Cincinnati. We were trying very hard to get the Northbrook group to sort of think about being a CDC, and the Grospec group to stand them up as a CDC. These organizations are democratic organizations where people in the neighborhood can really affect the development trajectory of their neighborhood.
Is Seth Walsh in College Hill is a CDC?
Yes.
That's the Urban Redevelopment Corporation. I mean,
Okay.
it's the College Hill Redevelopment Corporation. And you see them all across the city, and it's a very democratic way of doing development. And I think, Jeff, I think that that's a very astute point. And the only, I want to be real clear that I don't dislike input, right? But what I want is to make sure that if we're going to have this tool, that it is effective. And so when we're trying to get a real estate deal accomplished, like, do we need to add several months for other folks to like weigh in on the thing that you guys are directing staff to do? Whereas a CDC could very well serve in that capacity. I think it's a great idea.
And College Hill Redevelopment has become so good at this, they actually contract out to other communities.
Oh, yeah. They've got
They did
staff.
the Mount Healthy, and I know they did the North College Hill, and I mean, I might have to revisit that. I know that they've done in redevelopment, College Hill,
Blown up.
holy moly, that's,
Maybe that's the way to go then.
yeah, okay.
So I think tonight we come with a great discussions. A lot of ideas came out. I think let's explore more on this. So how to make this better organization.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, I think so too. Any other comments or?
None for me.
One other comment for you, Mr. Mills. I know that this was a question last time out. The side yard program, is that for a trustee meeting or for a CIC meeting that we could just go over what that is?
Sure, yeah. Whichever you'd like.
Probably I know the viewership is probably pretty high with me chairing this. On 2 stations, there's probably upwards of 6 people watching, but the trustee meetings probably get more eyes. So I don't know, is that something, we're always jammed with items on the agenda, but that's something that could be done fairly quickly, I guess?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's real simple.
Okay.
I can do it at the next trustee meeting.
Okay. All right, any other comments, questions, concerns?
None.
All right, at this point, I will take a motion for adjournment.
I motion that we adjourn the meeting of the Community Improvement Corporation.
I second it.
Motion by Unger, second by Roger Capal. Any commentary, any discussion?
None.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. McAravy.
Aye.
I vote aye. Mr. Unger.
Aye.
Mr. Rajagopal.
Aye.
And Mr. Waller.
Aye.
Very good.
We are concluded at 6:38. Thank you. We'll be back at 7.